I think someone like you is, something that most of them, or most of people my age also, look or forward to, or are trying to become or get to that stage of living on their own terms, living in terms of a creative and things like that, because that always looks very flashy from the outside, but most of
Exactly.
them are stuck into a kind of rat race, or whatever stock norm you call it, and you have done both sides. Okay, so
Yes.
that's why I want to ask this question to you, that what is this perspective shift that happened for you, which led you to kind of go from the stock things that people do to turning your own creative.
I guess, see, it's a great question because I guess, see, growing up, my parents who have been brought up in India, have quite an orthodox background. They've both worked in service all their life. You know, although my mom, who had opportunities when she was young to get into graphic design and stuff and
Yeah.
freelancing, gave it up to raise kids and build a family. So that gives a little bit of context on the kind of background I've had growing up. They've always said, get a job, do well in your studies, do well academically, and all that sort of stuff. Buy a house, save up, get married. So it was kind of that conventional pathway, and everyone around me was in that pathway as well. You know, and so my perspective was always around the sense of, by this age I should achieve this, by this
Yeah.
point I should reach this milestone. And
Hmm.
it's just a never ending race, because at the end of the day, when you get to the next place, you're still unhappy in some way, you're not fulfilled entirely. Yes, your surroundings have changed, you may have earned more money and all that, but at the end of the day, there's still something missing that you look elsewhere for. So that never ended for me. It was always like, okay, now I've got to this position in my company. I did IT for 13 years, to give your listeners some background. So I started as a programmer, and then I had grown quite high. I'd grown to become product management, senior leadership, agile coaching, all that sort of stuff at an enterprise level. But it was still not satisfying me. The money was there, everything was there. But I was still like, something's missing. Now, on the side, along the side of this, I was doing music. I was doing covers on YouTube and stuff. And
Hmm.
I did not know at the time how I could make that a living, because that is the trap. It's very hard to, it's like the podcast business you're doing. It starts with something and then it
Yeah.
grows to a point where you can make it a business.
Yeah.
But you don't understand that until you've done it at least once.
For
you know?
sure.
So that was kind of the journey. And the perspective was very normal and what you hear from society a lot. I hadn't challenged the perspective of the masses
Hmm.
until I started that journey. And I guess through that musical journey, what has changed is everything has changed. My perspective has widened
Yeah.
beyond the one perspective of the masses. Because if you think about it, the whole pressure and everything that you consume, media that you consume, people's words that you consume, most of them have gone through this conventional path. And so most of the perspective you're exposed to generally in life is that standard perspective, you
Yeah.
know?
That's so true. And I think I was hearing a discourse from Osho or someone, I don't remember exactly, but he also talks about this whole same idea of that inner talk that you have, that is
Mm,
not as much yours as you feel, because that is a amalgamation of all the teachers you've had and all the friends that you've had, all of what society has told you, all of what your family has told you. So that
correct,
inner voice, distinction between what is your true sense and what is your true identity versus what is that society's monitor that has been fed inside you as your inner voice to constantly challenge and trick with your brain into taking
correct,
riskier decisions or decisions that you feel are more like you. I think
correct.
that is where most people struggle with.
Correct. And what actually happened is, when I started music as well, that was my perspective. I was operating from a perspective of, oh, I need this many streams. Oh, I need to be on this radio station. Oh, my name needs to be associated with that person. So
Yeah.
that perspective was the same perspective that I began the music journey with, you know. But over time it evolved to, okay, what makes me happy in life?
Hmm.
How can my thing benefit the world, the art that I'm doing? So that is a big change. It takes a long time to change that perspective. But what actually got me started on that journey was not only the music was one form of getting there in the mind, but the meditation and the spiritual aspect of it, and those realizations that actually there is more perspective out there than just your own, or just the perspective of the masses.
Yeah.
Once I started realizing certain things, that holy shit, maybe what 10 people have told me in the past is rubbish. Maybe there is more to
Could be.
this one thing than
Yeah.
that. When I started challenging those kinds of things at a very ground level, at a foundational level, and started challenging every perspective I've ever had, including my own, that is through meditation and stuff. That is when I started realizing there is more out there in this world, and that is when the whole mindset started shifting from that of a standard, or whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
to that of an artist. And that's what I believe, artists and entrepreneurs and all these 1% that everyone aspires to be. It's all in here and in here. It's not out there.